Good morning, everyone. It's such a pleasure to welcome you to another exciting CANTO conversation. I'm Teresa Wankin, Secretary General of CANTO, and today I'm happy to introduce you to two brilliant minds from JSC Engineer. Please join me in welcoming Freddie Lara and Alejandro Swarza. Our topic for today's discussion is connectivity of the future, more efficient, flexible, and inclusive. This is a conversation that's not just timely, but critical as we navigate the rapid evolution of our industry and explore how we can drive innovation in the region. Before we dive in, I'd like to remind everyone that we'll have a question and answer session at the end of the presentation. So please feel free to engage with us by submitting your questions in the chat box. We love to hear from you. And remember, we will post this presentation on our YouTube channel. So it's another way for you to engage with us and to go through the presentation at length again. So now let me introduce you to our experts for today. Freddie Lara, MNO Sales Director at JSC Engineering. Freddie is an accomplished engineer specializing in telecommunications projects. With over 25 years of experience, Freddie has designed, promoted, and sold end-to-end telecommunication solutions, software, and digital transformation services. He has held senior roles at industry leaders like Huawei, ZTE, ETB, and Siemens. He now leads JSC Engineering's commercial division and is so focused on MNOs. Alejandro Swarza. He is a pre-sales engineer at JSC Engineering, and he brings an extensive array of expertise in the telecom sector. He's had leadership position at top-tier companies like Oracle, Tigo, Huawei, and he's currently serving as a pre-sales engineer at JSC. Alejandro has been pivotal in large-scale projects for Tigo, Claro, and AT&T. He also specializes in engineering management systems and IT management. So, Freddie and Alejandro, welcome. We're all eager to hear from you. So I will now hand the stage over to you.
Good morning, everyone,
Good.
and thank you very much, Teresa, for the invitation and the opportunity to participate in these conversations and show our vision of how the future connectivity works. This future connectivity has many challenges, but also we think that it can be deployed in a more efficient, flexible, and inclusive way. So finally, this is what we are intended to present to all the Canto community and the audience we have today. As you mentioned in this opportunity, I am with Alejandro Suaza, my colleague and a fellow partner. So I'm going to allow to Alejandro to say hello to our audience before to start this conversation.
Yes,
Alejo.
hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Loud and clear.
Okay. Good morning, everyone in Canto community. This is a nice opportunity to talk about one of the main topics that are around in telco industries, how we are going to take advantage of the connectivity of the future in order to improve our operations in every one of our countries. So, welcome and thanks for joining this conversation.
Perfect.
Great.
Thank you, Alejandro. So before we start to the main contents of our presentation, I would like to give you a brief overview of our company, GSE Engineering, for those that who are not familiar with our company. We are a global vendor of core network business support system for telecom operators. We are focused in the telecom market, and our products are designed for telco operators. Our mission is to provide innovative solutions and empower telecommunication companies to deliver services in this evolving and very competitive industry. So we are committed to support your journey to all these effective and efficient operation. Our company started in Europe, but in the latest years, in 2016, I think, we start to expand to America. And at this moment, we have operations and we have customers in all America, North America, Central America, and South America. And we are starting to have presence in the Caribbean market. So we hope that we can have very soon some customers in this important market. Additionally, I would like to show you this slide very quickly. It presents the company portfolio. We are not going to be in detail on that, but basically what I want to tell you is that our solutions are designed to work in an integral manner or can also be delivered as independent modules that can be built according to the particular needs or requirements of our client. So as you can see in the description that we have in this slide, we are looking to improve network performance, cash flow, and any other things that the operators could need. But the key word here is performance. So we want to improve performance. We want to have efficiency, flexibility for this connectivity of the future. So let's start our discussion, and we are going to start to present our thoughts about that. (5G). I would like to start this conversation with a question. And the question is, the connectivity of the future necessarily dependent on 5G? As we can see in this slide, 5G is designed to deploy a series of use cases and applications based on their three pillars that are enhance mobile broadband, increase the machine-to-machine connectivity, and low latency and better network conditions. And around these points, many use cases are designed, some for industries, other for entertainment, but it is necessary to get 5G at this moment for this future connectivity, because at this moment, there are many challenges for deploy 5G. Not only the investment necessary to do it, but also how to start to receive the flows or revenues expected for these use cases that also some operators have been making some trials, some for demo. Still, there is not really clear what will be the killer application for 5G or what will be the massive deployment of the 5G. So the first question I would like to raise here is related to this. Is it absolutely necessary to go to 5G to get the connectivity of the future? So what do you think, Alejandro? Give us some thoughts about that.
Wow, Freddy and everyone, can you see the slide we are showing? We want to focus in two variables around applications. One of the variables is the bandwidth, the throughput, and the other one is the delay. uh, we as humans maybe all the time are aware about how much traffic can we download from one server. For example, if we are watching some streaming application like Netflix or Amazon Video, we are aware that if we select some high definition, ultra high definition, um, maybe we cannot see the content properly, and it's because of the throughput that we have at that moment in our cell phone. But there is another important, very important variable, which is delay, that we as humans maybe cannot check by ourselves. This is beyond our capacities. If we check the applications that we had in 2G, 3G, and even in 4G, most of them were oriented to uh, to humans. I mean, maybe it was us taking content from a web server, from gaming to interact with some other people. But now that we are moving beyond our capacities, we see that we can find another applications that can interact without humans. And this is when we start to thinking about IoT and machine to machine, but in a very, very futuristic way. I mean, when we say that we can have an hologram from me speaking to you in the same way if I would be in a physical manner, this is how can you do that? And this is because of the minimum delay. We are speaking about less than 10 milliseconds of delay, and this is wow. When you think about that, this is achievable because of the 5G capacities that we can deliver. But maybe, as Freddy is saying, we are not taking advantage of what we have deployed so far, because as you can see in the dark gray in this slide, there are too many applications that we can continue developing in order to satisfy the market needs. For example, the video call, multi-person, the wireless cloud-based office, real-time gaming, and etc. All these applications that are still into the spectrum of 4G LTE can be developed. And if we move beyond that, we can find autonomous driving that it will need a very, very minimum delay. Tactile internet, for example, when we see these kind of amazing devices for making surgeries or things like that, well, here we can start to think about the 5G applications.
Okay, so interesting your point, Alejandro. So according to this, I could say, so at this moment, it's not really necessary to move to 5G. So maybe we can extend the light to 4G and wait for those bigger requirements from those fantastic use cases and applications appear. So in that case, maybe the position from the operators could be do nothing, stay still. But no, from in GSE, we think that this is not the situation, or this is not what you should do. Why? Because currently there are a large number of challenges for operators that can be addressed immediately and that can prepare us for the moment when it is convenient to make a massive and total deployment of 5G, when the market really needs 5G. What are some of those challenges? We can see on here list high costs, and it's not only the cost associated with the 5G deployment, but also the cost associated with the current operation of the existing networks. And this is related with the second point, that is the duplicity of the network. Many operators at this moment have network 2G, 3G, 4G, and now another network with another operational cost. Maybe it's a little more complicated. And there is the third point, that is lack of collaboration from some vendors. That is a situation that I think that many operators has lived and has seen in cases where they already have the infrastructure from some specific vendor, and this infrastructure is really proprietary, not only in the hardware, but also in the software. So there is a kind of lock-in to that vendor, and this situation doesn't allow them to have a more competitive market and advantages. So all these are challenges that generate some, at the end, as we say, at the end, opportunities for the operators, and opportunities that we think that need to be taken, addressed, in order to generate some changes that at the end will lead us to this future connectivity in a more flexible way. And what about the GSE vision? Because considering all these challenges, so we have constructed the vision of our company that at the end seeks to address some of these challenges that operators are facing, and we can summarize some points that we want to share with you about vision. The first is one single core for all the networks. If you can have the same platform that allows to have several networks there, you will have a more efficient and a more flexible solution. This container-based network that we will explore later with the help of Alejandro, who is our technical expert. So at the end, we are going to, in this session, develop all these points that we are addressing in our vision, that at the end will allow our clients, and in general the operators, to solve some of these challenges that we present before. One interesting point that we put here at the end is the OpEx model, because we are totally sure that this is the way to make business for this market. It will not be necessary for the operators to make an initial big investment in a CapEx way. We think that a more suitable model is to pay for the solution, pay for the infrastructure in the way that the operators start to receive some incomes from the users. So our vision is really related to the cloud operation, and this will provide a lot of benefit for the operators. So for this, I would like that Alejandro help us to talk something about what are these benefits of cloud native operation, and at the end, what is cloud native operation? Because there are many ideas and many points about that. So we would like to present to you our vision and the benefit that this cloud native will have for the operators. Alejo.
Yes, Freddy. And I want the people here maybe recall about how things were in the past. Do you remember when maybe 10 years, 12, no, 20 years ago when we had these monolithic MSCs that you needed one specific board for maybe the switching matrix in this very, very legacy.
Alejo, but be careful. You are telling these people that we are not so young. You are revealing our
Ah,
age.
okay, okay. But
Let's better say that you read about that, not that you live.
no, 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 sorry, but if maybe I can look you somehow young, but I have 20 more than 20 years managing this kind of equipment.
Mm,
So when we started in telecom world, things were very, very different. Nowadays, we have this kind of merge between the IT world and telecom. How telecom has appropriate all these new advantages, new technologies coming from IT world and can implement something very, very different. At the beginning was okay. Let's move so to some ATCA features. Then we have virtual network functions, and you have one code server, and you put on this code server one virtual machine, and you deploy in this virtual machine an HLR, a DRA, an SMSC, something like that. But when we have this kind of deployment, somehow you are still attached into the hardware. Now, when we think about the cloud native, we are moving to something very, very different. And this is because now we are making the emphasis of the solutions in the software. The software is taking the relevance of well, of the whole solution. And the hardware is a cloud. I mean, you have almost unlimited capacity for the hardware. So everything that you want, you need to develop a software solution. And if we move in that direction, we have all these advantages because we can have the agility of make changes without any or at least with a minimum disruption during the updates because now you don't need to turn off anything. You don't need to restart anything. You make the changes only in the hardware. And maybe if you take advantage of a very, very good DevOps synergy, you can have a very straightforward loop about how you test, how you integrate, how you develop, and you can make this in a very continuous manner. So it will provide you with resiliency in a production and live operation because what happens if you have an HLR, HSS, and one of the nodes, the pods in the cloud native goes down, immediately there is a configuration for allowing to going up with another piece of hardware, but this is managed without any interaction of an engineer and who is needed to go to a data center and insert one board and configure. Nothing of this is needed right now with this kind of cloud native operation. You are not going to be attached to a specific vendor, because in your data center, if you, for example, are deploying your solution in a private cloud, you are allowed to use any hardware that you like. And if you are moving into a hyperscaling like Amazon or Google Cloud, Azure, you don't have the capacity of decide what kind of servers, and you don't care because you are paying for someone who will take care of these details instead of you. And the one of the most important thing is the scalability. What happens at night, during the weekends with some services? Maybe you can do scale down of some services on some capacities. What happens, for example, here in Latin America, when is the Mother's Day, when is Christmas and the end of the year, maybe our network is going to be compromised with a high traffic. What would like to do with this? We would like to provide to our users the capacity of continuous communication. And how can we do that? Having a high capacity for scaling up our traffic capacity. Resource efficiency. Mm, uh, could you please come back to the presentation? Thank you. Cloud agnostic. Maybe we are facing here some deployments where, for example, some of our customers says we want to deploy our solution in two clouds, different clouds, let's say in Amazon and Azure, and both of them needs to be ready in order to take traffic. So we say, okay, it's possible because now having all these solution being software centric, is we are the owners of the capabilities of our network. And this is somehow how is going to work the cloud native operation. We are going to have all these capacities for us. We are going to be able to be more agile, having resiliency into our network, being able to more resource efficiency, and etc. I think we can. Okay, good. This one. This is somehow what I was trying to explain. At the beginning of the teleco world, we had the purpose-built hardware for every telco network functions. So maybe you remember that you have one rack for the SMSC and one rack for HSS, and you cannot do in some exchange of cards. Even, for example, if you have two routers and somehow they were pretty similar, you cannot doing this kind of exchange. So you are very tied up to the hardware vendor. Uh, Almost everything from the hardware, the networking, OEM, and of course the telco application were not in control of the telco operator, but of the vendor. Now, when we start to move to the future, now we have the virtualized network function, the VNF, and now the hardware infrastructure start to play in a second role, and we move in another layers because we have to add the virtualization layer. This is still into the vendor domain, but we can play almost all of the times with the hardware infrastructure, because if we are putting the machines, we can say, okay, you please put the virtualization layer in this kind of servers. When we move to the two last domains, we have the containerized network function, the CNF world, and we have the telco as a service pay-per-use. In these two, now we have cloud networking, cloud deployment, we have telco applications, but in the last one, we can see that telco applications are offered to the network operators as a service. And we, for example, in GSE, we have the two models, as Freddy was saying. We can sell the licenses or we can sell the service. And this is very good because sometimes, for example, we can find some network operators or some companies and some industries that they say, okay, I think I have 5 millions of users because I am a big retailer and etc. But I don't know anything about telecommunications, or I just simply don't want to take care of this and handling machines and hardware and contracts configurations. Just give me what I want. I have these users and I want to offer a commercial plan for mobile or for fixed or for machine to machine. So in this case, the telco as a service is a very, very good opportunity to take advantage of this big base of users and trying to make a big engagement between the mobile service and everything that you can provide as your core business. Having this kind of deployments make that the control is more from the network operator but than the vendor.
That is excellent for the operators to have the control of the situation. And as I say at the beginning, this will allow them to have a more competitive solution and, of course, better prices. But okay, Alejandro has explained us all these advantages that we can have from the cloud native approach, but we would like to illustrate these benefits in a more specific way through the case study from a specific operator which started this journey to move from the traditional architecture to cloud native operations. So here are some, you can see some information about this operator. It's a medium-sized operator with a good market presence, which has several networks, as is usual in most of them, 2G, 3G, and 4G, and has already started the 5G implementation with approximately 20% of 5G coverage, 5G non-standalone. And they are facing some challenges, the same challenges that we explained before: infrastructure costs, complex operations, and of course, competitive pressures to maintain their market. In almost all the markets, there are several companies fighting for the same amount of subscribers, because in almost all the markets, we have more of 100% of penetration. So the companies are always fighting for some customers. No really new customers appear. It's only a movement from users from one operator to another operator. So they took the decision to start a project in order to move from this traditional operation to a cloud native. And they say, okay, we need to focus on some areas. And the first one was thinking on 5G and 5G standalone, find a way to justify the investment needed in order to make that movement, and how to find some operational efficiency through technology integration. So they want to check how all these advantages of cloud native could be a reality in their operation. Of course, they want to gain a competitive advantage by exploring these new technologies that could help them to gain additional market. And the expected results should include operational reductions, improvements in the service process, and this is really important in terms of customer satisfaction and quality, because at the end, that is the way that you can keep your market and start to think in growing. You need to focus on the customer and the customer experience, the customer quality, because in this really competitive market for the customer, it's really easy to move from one operator to another when they are not satisfied with the service. And at the end, this part of enhanced network flexibility and scalability, because this is a key component in order to have this flexibility that we have been talking about the connectivity of the future. It's important to know that the strategy that they adopt was a state-by-state approach. And for us, this is really important and is one of the main recommendations that we made to our customer or potential customer, because this is a long journey, a really complex journey that should be taken step by step. So they define some phases, starting for a planning phase, which include a proof of concept in order to see how this new technology works and give them the opportunity to adopt their internal processes. And finally, to have a deployment of the solution that will include the automation that Alejandro was explaining in the previous slide. At the end, they make a analysis, TCO analysis, in order to have a structured result that allow them to qualify the results and the benefit that they will obtain with this journey from the transformation to a cloud native operation. So they started with one. What was the first step? It was to uh, construct a cloud native infrastructure. The first step is to move your infrastructure to be fully cloud native. And how? Initially defining some policies to use commercial off-the-shelf server, the codes that Alejandro was mentioned before, for the processing and also for the networking. Because apart from standardizing this and ensuring the support of the cloud native application, this also provide their negotiation capacity for acquiring the components. They are not locked to a specific hardware. They have a very standard infrastructure, so they can have many providers and they can generate a competitive situation that at the end will provide to them additional benefits. So they will start to move from these traditional BNF implementations to these cloud native infrastructure and now put over those infrastructure cloud native application that this is the full solution that will allow us to have all these benefits. This point of the adopt a standard infrastructure also allows them to have a shared infrastructure because they can start to have over the same infrastructure many networks and start to make these transformation plans in order to get at the end this full cloud native development. Mm, Additionally, another benefit is the effective hardware management because in the moment, not only for the hardware in production, but also for the management of the spares. You have a standard hardware and spare part that can use for any part of your infrastructure. You don't need to have a lot of spare slots for each one of the providers or manufacturers that you have in your network. So at the end, this will result in some additional benefits. Let's see now how this can be put in the reality in a graphical perspective. I like to match this slide because it shows that the benefits for the cloud native are not exclusive for 5G. The cloud native is coming with 5G. 5G is defined to be a cloud native application and to work in this way and have all these benefits, but it does not mean that it's the only network that you could put over a cloud native. And in this slide, you can see that you can have all your networks, even the existing ones, the EPC, the IMS, you can move that to a cloud native infrastructure. And the 5G doesn't need to be the first one to do that. In fact, in this case, our operator took the decision to start this journey to move to a cloud native, not with 5G, because 5G has the complexity that is a new technology plus a new way to do it. So two new things to challenge to attack at the same time maybe is not the same option. They took the decision to use the IMS core that is a network solution that they already knew because they already had voice over LTE, but they took the decision to move the IMS solution to a DNF perspective, a cloud native solution, and focus in this first stage of the transformation, not in the technology, because the technology is already well known, IMS, but focus on the process to the change to cloud native. When this finish, they already have the processes, the knowledge, the expertise inside of the company to be ready to make the next movement that is to move now to a full 5G core cloud native and benefit of all the key points that the 5G had or will have in the future. Let's see now what were the results of this. The result was a 15% reduction in the infrastructure capex and a 26% reduction in the OpEx. These savings were achieved through delivering the cloud services and automate the provision, optimizing the space utilization, reducing the overall power consumption, and auto-scaling the operation during the hours of high and low traffic. What Alejandro was explaining that this is scalability, advantage of the cloud native that allow that the infrastructure usage follows the real traffic patterns. So in that way, you will use a much more efficient way of the infrastructure. This was the first step that they took in this journey for the transformation. Now, Alejandro will help us with the additional steps that they took.
Yes, Freddy. Here, you have explained the first part. I like to emphasize in this second one, and this is the beauty of the cloud native operation, because let's remember when you have to make an upgrade or an update of any software for the, I don't know, for any network function, let's say for a PCRF, for a PGW, you needed to some engineer move to the data center and restart the node and etc. Now with this DevOps um, definition, you have a pipeline where you can make the testing and the integration, the development in the same flow. So there is one pipeline between the network operator and the telecom provider, the testing team, where you can have this flow in a very continuous manner. So taking these DevOps capabilities from the IT world and integrated here in telecom, it's a very, very good approach. And it was a very good decision that integrates these two worlds. So if you have a CI/CD pipeline implementation, a good thing is that you are going to reduce the downtime. You are going to have an operational network all the time. This is how in this slide you can see the current DevOps philosophy that you build, you develop, you have a plan, and etc. Up to you operate, and then you can monitor and make report, and you have a very stretched collaboration between the people in the product team, the people who will develop the new feature, the new capability, or maybe it's for applying a patch. There is something that is not working well. So the product team will develop. There is one integration team doing the updates in the continuous flow. And finally, you have the platform engineering team helping to integrate these new solutions into the current platform. It can happen for the cloud native 5G core, the cloud native EPC, the cloud native IMS core. At the beginning, Freddy was explained that, for example, here in GSC, we have all these 5G core, EPC, IMS integrated into one big solution, but they can be deployed as an independent modules. So it's a very good thing that the operators can decide, and this is like a market where you go and select, okay, I want an IMS core, but I have a proper HSS IMS, so I don't want it. And my IMS HSS is able to authenticate users, for example, for XCAP server, so I don't want this. Or yes, give it to me. I want GSC to deploy this. This is good, and is possible to achieve this kind of deployments because of the CNF. Otherwise, it can be more tricky, and the time to market it will take much more time. Continue, please. Here we have some results. For example, for the case that we are seeing 30% reduction in OPEX and 10% overall the cost savings. But one of the most important things is that it will introduce new services quickly, and this new service can be very innovative. through orchestration, only 3 months co-development cycles will give you more benefits to your operation. Continue. And in a third point, we have the improve engineering productivity, human resource cost optimization, sorry. But this optimization, you have to understand, is because if you have a network that will help to auto manage, because there are some cloud native functions that will have to operate and keeping in a good health your network, your engineers can use this time for automating processes, for trying to think how to optimize your network, and not doing this kind of repetitive and operative tasks that maybe we are used to it in some of our operations. And I am saying this because at the beginning of the telco world, for sure, most of the people who are here had to do this kind of tasks, and it's not good. So enhance engineering productivity will give you as an objective to create a standard environment that works in a very automated way for developing and for the deployment of the hardware. How can we do this? Reducing the effort. Maybe when we have different platforms, we have to do the same task in the platform one and the platform two, and etc. And if we have one common framework for the platforms, for sure we are going to be more efficient in the job. So we will rise our productivity, we will have less repetitive tasks, and etc. Let's continue, please. And for example, having this kind of optimization, we achieve 31% reduction in the OpEx of the human resources in this case. Continue, please. Here, we wanted to bring you this slide, and the whole presentation we'll share with you. So you will be able to scan this QR code and download this case for studying, where we explain in a very more detail how the different cloud type will impact your organization, because we know there are different ways to deploying the CNF world. The first one is the bare metal. The second one, if you are going into a public cloud like Amazon, Google, etc. And the last one, if you want to deploy your own telco cloud with your own servers in your data center. So there are three domains: technology, business, and operator, that will be impacted for this way for deploying the CNF. For example, for the business, it's going to be better if we deploy in a public cloud. You are not having capex expenditure, so the impact is going to be very well. The time to market can be very improved. The competition, the future maturity is going to be impacted in a very good way. But for example, if we say from the perspective of the operator, our operators, our engineers are able to manage from now the public cloud. Are they certified in Amazon? How they are going to set the parameters for scaling up, scaling down, and etc. Maybe the impact has to be checked before we move to a CNF world. But for example, for the operator, the CNF over bare metal is very good. I mean, there is not too much impact because this is what we are used to it in our network operations. Please move. So this QR code is going to be available in the slides that Canto we will share to all of you.
Okay, here are the summary of the lessons learned by our operator after their journey. Basically, is what we have been talking previously. So I just want to emphasize here 2 points: the scalability, that is really important, and it generates many of the savings and the improvements in the operational costs, and the innovation. This is key because this is a really competitive market, and the ability and the availability to have faster deployments to new services and increase the customer satisfaction at the end will lead to innovation capacity for the operators that is crucial in this moment of this telco competitive and rapid evolving market. But now a question: how do we start? How we can start? What are the main drivers to start to move to a cloud? Alejo, some help with this.
Can you please go back? Yes, why moving to cloud? The first thing that we have to think is because it's the future, and many of the new architectures are coming in cloud way. So if we don't take advantage of this moment, maybe trying to move to the cloud in the future is going to be more tricky. So the first thing is the sunset of the 2G, 3G to enable refarming of spectrums, but there are a lot of more aspects here to to touch point. For example, you know that now in USA we are not having more 3G. So what happened with our users going to United States? We are not going to be able to talk if we don't have Volti. And if we want to have Volti, what's the better way to move? Okay, let's try to implement a CNF deployment for an IMS network in order to have Volti, and maybe in the future to be able to deploy voice over new radio, because sooner or later we are going to deploy 5G in our cities, at least in the main cities, as is happening in some of the countries in Latin America. So it's a good opportunity to deploy an IMS into a CNF world for taking all this moment in one hand. The 5G, we know that the service-based architecture is the standard right now. We are not more having point-to-point interface, but one bus interface in order every node can connect with another one by exposing APIs. So what is the best way for taking this with our hands? Having a CNF world into our network operation. This is why we have to move into a cloud world right now, because the time is passing, and for sure the future is not more the future is the present. So we have to do it, and do it quickly. Okay. And finally, okay, we have a lot of domains here. We have the legacy core, the RAN, the 5G core, EPC IMS. So how we are going to start with our cloud strategy. What can we move at the beginning to the cloud? For example, it's easy to move to the cloud the legacy core. It's not. That's why the complexity of the legacy core is in the right corner, because it's not easy. But what about the new technologies like IMS that can provide VoLTE right now and can provide in the future voice over new radio? It's not as complex because it's somehow in some network operators a greenfield aspect. So, for example, GSE can deploy a CNF IMS, interconnect with SIP for the interconnections with another operators and etc. With the taking advantage of one SBC, and that's it. You have VoLTE. So the complexity is not too much, but the business value is quite good, because it will give you all the advantages of VoLTE, having a less call setup, a better and improved codec for speech, and for sure you can start to manage a roaming agreement with another operators that have already deployed a VoLTE. This is very, very good for the users. BSS OSS is a quick win, and it will give you a business value for moving to the cloud. These two are a very good starting point for moving to a cloud.
Okay, thank you, Alejandro. So now a final slide for on self-promotion. Uh, One of the most critical factors for this transition to cloud native is the right CNF vendor. We in GSE Engineer are fully convinced that this is the path to the future connectivity. And as Alejandro said, this is something that all the operators should start right now. Not necessarily to 5G, but it can be started with a different network, a different platform. So we are ready to help you and support you in this path, in this transition with the experience and the expertise that we have in this field. So I think that this is all for today. Thank you very much, and please feel free to reach us if you need or you want to receive some additional information from our side. Teresa, over
Yes.
to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Freddie, and thank you, Alejandro. That was a thought-provoking presentation, very enlightening, especially in what's happening in the region now with digital transformation. Two of our very engaged attendees had to drop off, but I'll still open the floor for a few minutes for questions. But have no fear, Alejandro and Freddie, we will put them in direct contact with you. Any other questions coming from the floor? I saw there was one about CapEx, and I know you mentioned in the presentation that there is a strategy for operators to use the system and pay as the users pay them. So I think that is good, especially for Caribbean operators, the smaller niche operators. But maybe we can answer a few. What is a top tier a tier 2 network for you? That was a question from Leonardo. He had to drop off. How many subscribers are considered tier 2?
For us, tier two operator will be someone with a couple of million users, so it's passing barrier of 1 million users will make this classification and will generate some additional infrastructure and requirements for you. But at the end, we in the use case put it like a reference. In fact, we have experience for very small operators talking about the hundreds of thousands of users to some big operators with several millions of subscribers. And at the end, this is one of the advantages of this kind of solution, that it can fit to the specific necessities and to the size of the operator.
And that's good for the Caribbean because some of our countries, our population is under 100,000. So it's good that it's scalable from the lower end to the higher ends as well. There's another question from Pablo. What do you think of the use of LEO satellite systems to connect non-served areas, rural areas? I guess that's what he's asking. And provide reliable backup disaster recovery. Could you just go into that for a few minutes?
Alejo.
Yes, I am reading the question. Well, this is a very new approach here in our countries because we are not so used to it to handle this massive satellite. But I think it's a good approach. I mean, the thing is that maybe the low latency cannot be guaranteed as much as you are having a ground deployment. But for sure, the technology will reach that time where they can be somehow you can have a good comparison between the two kind of deployments. Well, at the end, it's the radio access network, let's say. It doesn't matter if it's coming from the satellite or it's coming from a ground deployment. You will need to interconnect this to a core network, and for sure for accessing to some another services like interconnections with another voice operators, or for example for content providers for SMS, for content, either for the data. You will need a core in order to handling all these, making the AAA authorization accounting, and these kind of things. I think is a good approach. I mean, the technology is there, and if it's for the sake of the people who lives where there is no internet deployment, fiber deployment, it's welcome for sure. All these kind of new approach are more than welcome.
Okay. So I just want to let you all know that you can contact our speakers and we will send that email. But for those of you, it's in the chat, freddy.lara@jscingenium.com and Alejandro Suazo@jscingenium.com. So I just want to take this opportunity now to thank you, Freddie and Alejandro. And I just have some closing comments that from CANTO, and it's to thank you all for joining us today. This is our last CANTO conversation for 2024. We will be seeing you again bright and early in 2025, and we start the series again to bring information to you in the comfort of your own home. I do appreciate your time and your expertise to all the speakers, as well as the audience. You've been with us from inception, and I encourage you to stay connected to CANTO. Remember to book your hotels and register early for our CANTO Connect and AGM. It's from the 26th to the 28th of January and will be held in the wonderful island of Curacao. So You have a wonderful day. Those of you in the US who have joined us, I see Melissa Harris is on. Happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the rest of your day and stay connected to the CANTO community. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.